Well, it is.
All
It is
right.
official. Monster Energy will never sponsor us.
Exactly. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt for sure. All right. So recording is on. So this is gonna be episode 9.
Do, 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 do,
Yeah.
do.
Welcome to the Goop Squad. Again, reintros. Me, Sean, iRagePhage. Anybody else can
Oh,
go forward.
I guess that's me. Yes, I am antimatterburst. Yours truly. Also, my name is just Carlos. You can just call me Carlos.
And I'm Apollo, deadlockchaos. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Sweet. Sweet.
let's go, Goob Squad. Let's goob all over.
Goobalicious. All right, so our topic is actually just going to be first is the impressions on Ghost of Tsushima. Where are you at the game? We haven't all beaten it. Some of us has, but yeah, and we're just going to talk about our impressions. There will be spoilers ahead, more likely. We'll see. If there isn't, then good.
We'll
on
try to
us.
keep it to a minimum. I think we can do. We'll probably delve into minor spoilers, maybe some bigger ones, but yeah.
I mean,
There's
if it turns out
definitely
that
some spoilers. So if you don't want to hear anything about the game, just come back to this episode when you're done with it.
yeah,
Yes,
but
sorry, Bob.
also I'm gonna have to just mute myself and completely get out of this room if I don't want to hear any spoilers.
Yeah, he's gonna just like throw his computer out the window, like fucking
Indeed.
hell. He's gonna take.
I don't
his
know how to
PS4,
use this
he's
emails.
Like, fuck this. I'm not gonna play this game no more because I know what happens at the end. It destroys my experience.
Oh my god, the good guys win.
I mean, it's a game. If you don't ever play it, then the good guys never win. Then, right?
Yeah. Oh my god, there is just so much to play in this game, and I'm excited playing it. Don't get me wrong, but it's there's a lot of little stories, a little side stories that I want to get through before just plowing through the main quest.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. We'll get into it.
Okay.
Anyways, yep, and then yeah, I mean that's the topic we're gonna be talking about, pretty much. Anybody want to start it?
How
Maybe
about
you should start, Carlos.
okay? Yeah, I
'Cause you
think I'm
played the
probably
least.
I'm probably the person that's a little bit more behind, right? Like, how many of us have finished the game?
I've finished it.
I'm still on Act 2.
You're in Act 2. I'm on Act 2 as well.
Yeah, so I've been yeah doing a lot of the side quests. Just even though like I was trying to tell myself not to do it, like it, I kind of want to collect.
I mean, that's part of the game, though.
Yeah,
that's kind of the main. I don't know. I think the world itself is probably the main draw of the game. The world and the combat.
right.
I mean, to me, the draw of the game is just petting all the foxes.
Oh
I just
yeah,
want to pet every single fox around.
yeah. I did that
You
because
won.
I'm going for the platinum, so I did that, and it's
Ooh.
great. I took a picture like almost every time, just because I
That's-
love the fox.
That's actually really cool. The fact that the photo mode is just so accessible. It's just right on the D-pad.
Photo
Oh,
mode's
actually,
amazing.
let's talk
It's
about
like
that.
seriously one of the best photo modes in any game I've ever
I'm
seen.
glad you're all saying because I actually made it so that I can't press that damn button.
Oh, really?
I'm
Yeah,
all like,
it's easy to accidentally press it, yeah.
For me, it's
Interesting.
like in combat, and I accidentally fucking press it, and then it's just like, no,
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
So I took like one picture or two accidentally, and then it's like, oh, that trophy popped up. Well, I don't want to do this anymore, so I turned it off.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, my thing with photo modes is I really appreciate them, but I always sometimes I forget, but sometimes I knowingly do it, and I don't really know why. But like, I'll take a bunch of pictures, but not with the photo mode, just with the share button on the PlayStation, and I'll keep. Am I cutting out?
No, we hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that, but I won't use the photo mode. So I think I use the photo mode in this game for the trophy, and then I've seen a lot of people's like amazing pictures with it, but yeah, I don't really know why I do that, but I guess I don't know. I always appreciate photo modes, but I don't usually use them.
I never really delved into them. The only reason why I'm happy about this one is precisely because it's just so accessible and because it's so dynamic. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
appreciate the fact that I don't have to like press all the buttons in the controller at the same time in order to like make it activate. It's just one D-pad right there.
All
yeah.
right, so it's like the exact opposite for my situation where it's too accessible, and for you it is accessible.
Yeah, yeah.
You figured I would
Wait,
be into
wait.
it.
So okay, one important question that I feel stupid asking. So, is there a way to take a picture in the game other than pressing the share button?
Yeah, there's a button. I think it's down on the D-pad.
once you're
Oh
once
wait,
you're on.
it's down on the touchpad. It's one of those. It's down. I think it's down on
Once
the
you hit photo
one of
mode,
those.
maybe. I
Yeah.
guess.
Oh wow, I am a moron. I had
I
no
mean,
idea.
I
I
don't
thought it
know.
was
I
just.
wasn't messing
I
with it, so.
Yeah,
No,
I was
you
just.
just you can just activate photo mode with a button or a swipe, whichever one it is.
Yeah, yeah. No, I activate it's right on the D-pad. Um, when you don't have anything, when you're not pressing any of the triggers to access any of your tools, of course. But yeah, if you're just running around the game, you just press right on the D-pad. You go to the photo mode. But so after that, you just pretty much you can take a pic. You still have to take a picture with the share button, right? Or is there like something that saves it internally to a specific file in the game?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Okay. Okay, good. I'm glad we're all sort of in the same um on the same page of that.
Right, that we haven't experimented with the photo mode, even though it's like one of the selling points for this. This game's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
beautiful. You want to take all the pictures? Make yourself look
uh,
like a kick-ass ninja and a fucking samurai. Woo! But you know,
quick question about this. Since you're further into the game, spoil one mechanic for me. Is there some sort of like extra demon like ninja mode that I haven't unlocked yet?
Demon Ninja mode. What do you
I
mean?
I don't know. Like there is one ability that is still locked in I want to say the um not the stanzas.
Like
right?
the
It's
mythical tale,
yeah.
like
You're talking about like the activatable abilities. So there's
because you
like
can get like you can get
something
like
Lance
from the
Wrath or whatever.
yeah.
Wrath. I don't know.
There's I think like four different or no, there's like five or six because you get a bunch of them. But I think on the menu you're talking about, there's like four different like pretty much like legendary type of abilities, like the Heavenly Strike and like
Mm-hmm.
the Death's Wrath or
Are
whatever,
those the
where
ones that
like you
set
can
your
do
sword
like
on fire?
where you can do yeah, where you can like do like almost a super type ability where
Yeah, uses up more
it's
resolve.
yeah, it uses up more resolve and it's almost on the cusp of like something supernatural where you just like I with the Heavenly Strike like you move like in a flash and like you
Yeah.
basically instantly cut people down. So yeah, there are if you go to the different mythical tales, if you find them around Tsushima, and they're like sort of long form like threaded missions. And you have to do some duels for them and stuff, then yeah, you can get those higher tier abilities.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's not a mode or anything. It's just like an ability that you can press during combat.
I
Yeah, it's
see.
just ability.
But
Anyways,
So what do you think of the game so far, Carlos?
I'm loving it. It's so few words, right? I'm loving it. But to be more specific, it's a game that just allows you to express yourself in like so many different ways. Like I definitely appreciate that um, neither of the um, type of ways to play the games feels like the right way to play.
Mm.
Like in too many of the games where they give you the choice between playing as in a stealth form type of way or in all out guns. So it always feels like you should only be playing in one way. Like
Right.
like for example, Wolfenstein 2 was like the prime example. Supposedly you
Mm.
can play in both ways in being all guns blazing or going or trying to trying to stealth it out. But oh my god, that game, like, you die in like a few hits, and you have to like just sneak and you have to like pretty much be behind cover like most of the time. So you really only have the choice to actually stealth around.
Right, and there's no regenerating health or anything. You have to like pick up the packs and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I honestly I like the fact that the Ghost of Tsushima gives me the freedom to just play however I want. Like I really actually just want to go into the duels.
Right.
Um, and I like the fact that it's just so dynamic. Like it gives you so many abilities and so many options to be able to use around. Like you can use a lot of like the all the ranged abilities, all the different stances. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, the stances are interesting because I didn't think that I would like. I'm like on paper for me, like oh, you got to switch between like a stance for like four different types of like classes of enemies. Like on paper, that's not something that appeals to me at all. Especially when you're like, you have to you're as the game progresses, you just get mobbed by more and more enemies.
Oof.
Like where you're regularly fighting like 20 enemies at a time, depending on how you play the game, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And like it can, again on paper that doesn't really sound very fun to me at all. But like
Mhm.
when you're in the moment-to-moment gameplay, it's actually pretty great. Like like you'll be attacked by, there's a brute, which are like the bigger guys that like swing the axes and stuff, and they're harder to take down. And then there's the shield guys who, they have a shield and they have a sword and they
Yeah,
block.
you're always in like the need to be able to have to use those stances. Like you have
Yeah,
to always be dynamic about the way you're gonna play.
yeah, you
Mhm.
do. Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, sometimes, like, especially with like the brute stance, like,
Mhm.
you can kind of just kill everybody with that. Especially when you get like the two or three spins where you like,
Oh yeah,
you do
yeah.
the link swing where you just like swing
You go all
everywhere.
Beyblade on them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally Beyblade all over them, and you can kill pretty much any class, whether it's like spear or sword or whatever.
You know what
But
I love doing? I love doing. I just love sneaking up behind somebody and just like seeing that if they're right next to like a river or like right next to some sort of edge, just like it's kicking them high into
oh
the
yeah,
air.
oh yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah.
There's a trophy for that too. Like if you can think if you kick somebody off like a high enough cliff and they die when they fall, then
You're
you get it.
right. There is.
Yeah, I always love that when they put the 300 Sparta kick into games. Like,
Yeah.
well, because they have it in Assassin's Creed Odyssey too, and it's the
Hmm.
most fun thing ever. You just come up behind him and he's like, "What's that?" And he just goes the best.
Yeah, I know. I remember I did it precisely that when I killed my father in the beginning of the game. Spoilers for the Odyssey. The guy who's like really like loyal to him, who's like he's been taken as an adopted son, comes up, rushing towards me, get out of the way, spin around, and just drop kick him into the, just like Sparta kick him into the edge.
And it's fitting in that game because you're actually like part of the Sparta Empire, and you're like,
Yeah, yeah.
you've defected.
Yeah,
That's pretty
but
funny.
back to Ghost of Tsushima. I also like a lot of the side stories. They are
Mm,
they're not that different from each other. Like they're pretty much always like, hey, go there, get me this guy who's
yeah,
and
they are.
kill these bad guys. Like that's pretty much the
Investigate the footprints and then go
yeah.
there and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just like them in a narrative sense. Like there's always a good narrative bit to it.
I like the animated ones with the calligraphy artwork. Those animated ones are pretty cool. That has
Mm.
like a mythical story behind it, and you're just hunting down the legendary, either it's armor or whatever. That Ghost
Oh
Sakura
Yeah.
yeah,
one was
the
pretty
mythic
cool.
tells. Yeah, those are pretty cool.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I like that. Those are like a hook for me. Definitely,
Interesting.
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to get the armor, and I'm definitely that type of player where it's like I like experimenting with the different builds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to max out like a lot of different ways of playing.
Mm.
Like for
Well, it's like
instance, so like I was gonna actually so like I agree with all the points in terms of like the combat and stuff, like the creativity aspect of it, and like the different things you could do, which was akin to a very like, how creatively can I fucking destroy these people? You know, like that's the cool part, right? The part of that very much I like about like, you know, Metal Gear and stuff like that, where you get to fuck with them in that sense. So there is that choice for it, and that's good. Between stealth and not stealthing it.
You know, it made me think that a lot of people have been asking for an Assassin's Creed set in feudal Japan. And just,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is the one Assassin's Creed that Ubisoft refuses to make.
Right, because it was too on the nose. They said that there was just like, that's just kind of, it's obvious. Like, we want to highlight, to highlight, you know, the other cultures, which is very respectable, like, position.
Yeah,
to
I
go
agree
on.
with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, continue with your point that you were making about
so the combat's really fun. Like, that's really what's the draw. The AI is like kind of meh. Like,
AI is pretty stupid, honestly. It's really easy to like fool them. Like, I mean, it's not even like you don't even have to try sometimes. Like, if you let's say you stealth into a fortress and then you get caught, or I mean, like you're alerted and like everybody's after you, and then there's like 20 guys running after you, and you run into a hut. As soon as everybody loses like their line of vision on you, they just like become bumbling idiots, and they're like, "Wait, where did he go? Where is he?" And it's just they walk away like it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it depends too on your build even. Like, so when I like my current playthrough, and again I'm only in Act 2, but I've been doing like the stupid amount of the side missions and collecting shit. Just so that I can be like, I wonder what happens if I do this. So I was in the beginning, I played it where like because the story keeps on telling you, you're for your honor and all that shit. Like, you don't do it this way. It's so dishonorable to fight that way. And I'm all like, okay, can I play with trying to keep my honor intact then? So I'm like, I just literally don't do anything that has to do with ghost moves or anything like that, or like ninjaing people or silently killing them, but I still have to because it's the game telling me to have to do it. But it doesn't.
Well, you have to in the story missions, in the main story.
And that's one thing I have a gripe with, was just like, are you like, you give me all these options, but you also are forcing me, not because like the story pushes me in that direction, like.
No, that's the story pushing you in that direction.
No, it
right?
isn't.
Like,
no, there's literally a part where it says you can't get past it until I stealth kill him. Like, I can totally yell at the guy behind the door, say, "Hey, I'm behind you," and then we'll duel. Like, that could totally happen, but it literally forced me to do a stealth kill because he's just right in front of the door. And I'm all like, well, why can't I just do a standoff right now? Like, there's no reason I can't do that. That it doesn't give me a reason, and it pulls me out away from the story that they're trying to tell me, which is in conflict with the gameplay. So the gameplay and the story are in conflict with each other. That's what I'm saying. Last of Us, there was like people that were trying to say that there's like a conflict between, Ellie's revenge. Why are you guilty about going for, fucking killing a certain so-and-so person, yet while you're doing it, you're killing all these other people? I'm all like, well, they clearly...
Well, that's just the story, right?
Yeah, it is the story, but at the same time, when you do kill them...
the gameplay and the story are, like, cohesive. Like, they're not disjointed.
It's more cohesive in the sense that I could skip them, I could go behind... Like, I could just not kill them at all, but then when I do kill them because they're, attacking me and stuff, like, their names. Like, they talk to each other. They have, like...
Right.
There is some sense of person behind the AI that you're fighting. So, like, to say that is like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, also, you're not playing as yourself in The Last of Us. You're playing as Ellie. Like, you're making the choices that Ellie will make. Like, Ellie's just making the choices. You're just sort of, saying, going through the motions of being her.
Right. But but the other people were arguing the fact that, like, she's in conflict with the gameplay, her killing these people to get to her. right, for her revenge.
Yeah.
Yet she's guilty to fight and kill the person that she went through all this trouble with, right? So that
I mean,
they're
that,
saying
that doesn't track at all, though. Just because
yeah, exactly.
it's
That's what I'm saying.
like the whole,
Like, I don't
yeah,
agree with
I
that.
know,
Yeah.
but I'm agreeing because it's with that game it is a revenge story. Like if you ever seen a revenge movie or TV show or game, that's how it works. Like they
If you
mow
ever
down
watch
every-
Kill Bill,
Yeah, they're in a blind rage. Like they fucking kill everyone in front of them. Like that's the
Right.
fucking point. Like they don't care who's in the way. They just care. Okay, I'm going after Abby. If you're gonna get in my way, I'm gonna kill you. That's
Right.
it.
Right, and what I'm trying to draw a conclusion here is that in my perspective right now, Ghost of Tsushima, the gameplay doesn't match the narrative of the conflict that he's supposedly going through, because
it's
like
not
there is moments
Okay,
that I agree.
I'm definitely gonna
but
disagree
then
with you
there's
because I think that
hold
the
on,
whole
hold on.
point.
You're not even letting me talk for a second. You know that one part
Okay.
where you have to stab somebody through the door?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's literally a gamey way to just funnel me into a situation where I have no choice to do it, just so I could get that ability.
Well, yeah.
That's not a story
yeah,
reason
it's just showing you how to
at
do
all.
that. Yeah.
Like
Right.
that's completely conflicting from it. And then I accidentally kill people, like accidentally kill them with a stealth kill, right? When I intentionally
right.
was not trying to do that. And then they'll like have the fucking AI guys like, oh, that's dishonorable. I'm like, fuck you. Like, the
What
one
else
time,
am I gonna do?
Yeah, one time I accidentally do that, and now the game is telling me like the story's telling me I'm like this ghost or some shit. I'm like, what are you talking
You're
about?
a fucking piece of shit for doing that.
I fucking did the whole entire act with like 2 stealth kills at best. At best. And all the other times I'm like, I'm right here, motherfucker. Take me on. Like I literally go rush in and I'm just fucking destroying everybody. And that's my problem with it. That was my problem with it. And now here's the I'll end this off with that. Now that I know that there is okay, it is kind of a spoiler. There's gonna be parts in the game I have no choice to, not because the story is telling me, it's because the game is telling me. That's where I'm a little bit upset. Where I'm like, you mean to tell me I can't actually choose the way I play? Like, I can't actually do the options. Like, eventually, I have to go the other route. Like, I have to go and stealth. Like, completely.
I mean, yeah.
And I already ran into those missions where it's just instant lose. Like, you get caught,
that's
done.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even, like, a reason for the story. It's just like, we gotta do it. And it's like, oh, I'm thinking, why? Right?
Oh, 100%. Like, and yeah, that's actually one of my biggest problems with the game is that it the instant fail missions for stealth, that's such an outdated mechanic that most stealth games have gotten rid of, and this game retains for some reason, and it drove me up the fucking walls because that's only in main story missions, and that is, as you go through the story, you get more and more of those instant fail missions. And it gets harder and harder to get through sections. Like, I don't mind stealthing through a section, but like when you break out of stealth and you're alerted, and then you can't go back into stealth, like you can't finesse your way back into stealth, that's a problem. Especially, like, I mean, and again, these are old issues. Like, these are issues like in the PS2 Splinter Cell days, like the original Splinter Cells, where it's like, oh, they're instant fail missions. Like, okay, well, that's how the game was back then. But we're in 2020. Why is this a fucking thing? Like, it actually really pissed me off because there's a good 6 or 7 missions in the main story that are like that, and it's so I think it draws to my main issue with the game, where because a lot of times during those instant fail missions, you got to restart the whole mission. Like if you get seen, for a split second, you got to go all the way back to the fucking beginning of the mission and stealth through again. And I know I think the main complaint, or it's kind of a complaint, but it's kind of not. It's sort of almost harkening back to our Borderlands 3 discussion of what's old is new again, and sometimes that can be a good thing, and I 100% agree with that. But I think with this game, it feels, a lot of people have said this, and I 100% agree, it feels like a 2014 game in 2020. Like, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and I'll definitely get further into that. But like that, the instant fail missions with the stealth is a really big part of that because
Yeah.
it is. I don't understand why they did that.
It's such a formula that nobody likes. Like
Yeah,
everybody hates the whole insta fail mission because you
exactly. And
Right.
it's one of those things where it's like, oh well, you know how there used to be fetch quests in all of these games. Most
yeah
games don't have that anymore
yeah
because no one likes it. And that you used to have tailing missions all the time where you got to sneak around and follow these guys and eavesdrop. And most games don't have that anymore because no one likes them. But this game has all three of those things more than once. Like, and it's just like, but like it's almost like it was created in a vacuum to some extent, where they kind of shut out everything else in the world while they were developing it, and then didn't realize that games had moved forward and not implemented those mechanics anymore. So you will get like there's only a few tailing missions where you gotta like stealth through, and it's not hard. Like, and you gotta listen to their conversation and stuff, and then there's a few fetch quests at ones, but the instant fail stealth missions are definitely the biggest offender in this game for me because it's just I just don't understand why they have it in here, and it really does draw to the bigger problem of like this is like for me I think this is a very good game, but and sometimes it's great, but it's not overall it's not incredible to me, and there's really no one piece of the game that is remarkable. Like
right.
it doesn't really stand apart from other stealth games or other open world games in any real like impactful way. But it does do a lot. It does a lot of things well. It just doesn't like a lot of games have done those things better simply because they've done one game, they realized it didn't work, and then they refined it in the next game, and then they made it better. Whereas this one, again, it feels like a game from like last generation, where it's like it's very pretty, but like it's I don't know.
That's funny because a lot of the gaming press has been
Modernity
praised.
sort of ends there.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of the gaming press has been praising this game for having a like mature, more interesting game structure than their typical open world game. And I don't quite see that.
No, I don't see that at all, honestly.
I definitely. I mean, I appreciate the fact that there is less of a intrusive HUD because that's always been my complaint with the open world genre, just having that giant ass like mini map right there on the corner of my screen, and a whole bunch of icons on the screen, because instead of appreciating the pretty graphics that you spent that you just sacrificed a lot of these people to actually make, and you made a whole bunch of people unhappy to in crunch time. I'm looking at a bunch of icons on a on a mini map.
Right.
But yeah, as far as like the game goes, like the structure of its open world game and its side missions is actually one of my complaints about this game. The fact that there's just so much to do around, and yet there's such an urgency to the main story that, like, to me that conflicts a lot with just like the whole game design in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes sort of hand in hand with what Sean was saying about like sort of the way the game sometimes forces you to play a certain way. It's sort of I think Sean and I were talking about this offline like last week or something, and like the game again, and this again, I'm going to keep referring back to this because it's just I think it's going to pretty much hit on every complaint we have about it or gripe or whatever, is that this game, like you both were saying about each of your respective points, this game is it has the old like GTA problem where it's the main story is like let's say GTA 4 specifically. Niko Bellic comes to New York. He's like a Serbian refugee or something, and he's this guy who's done a bunch of bad stuff, and he's like, I want to come here and not kill anybody, and I don't want to like do bad things anymore. And he's trying the whole game is a quest for him to save his soul before there's nothing left. but as soon as he'll say it in the cutscene, and then the next mission is him gunning down like 50 guys, and it is so disjointed. And I remember like that was such a huge complaint for like that game in particular, and that's that they fixed that more for GTA 5 by having different characters and having them have different personalities, and like specifically for like someone like Trevor, having him have a specific like manic mode where he's just like rampaging, and like that's part of his character. Like it's sort of they sort of fixed it in that way, but this game definitely does feel more like GTA 4, where it is like, well, okay, the game is forcing you to do this. Okay, we got to stop the Mongol invasion. Okay, we got to do this. But, oh, wait, let me go check out these side missions. Like, it's like there's, like, what are we doing? Are we saving our home, or are we going to pet the foxes? Like, which one is more important right now?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the whole Mass Effect 3. It's like, oh my god, there's some, the aliens wanted the super machines want to destroy the whole entire galaxy. But let me do the side missions first.
Yeah.
Let me get to know my character more. Just he's they need to go pick up some milk.
Let me punch a journalist first.
Yeah, it feels very disjointed. I think another thing we was going to mention was the fact that. Oh yeah, that's right. Of course, I'm only in Act 2. I only did a little bit. I did a bit of the stories for the Act 2, but I'm mainly doing the side missions. But so far, just having the conversation of like having like what honor means to the character is in conflict with the gameplay, in the sense that I'm with the fucking uncle. And we're going like, all right, we're going to charge in the fortress, take it down, because it's the only thing to do. And I'm all like, okay, but what tactics are you using? You don't just charge in. Yeah. Like, what the fuck?
Right, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, like, again, I'm not, like, completely in tune with, 13th century feudal Japan, so I don't know, like, how accurate that is, but I do know for sure.
You're not old.
Yeah, I'm not that old, but I do know for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, that the samurai of feudal Japan definitely had tactics.
Yeah,
I understand that they charged in and this, but they still had tactics. Like, I think the main character, I maybe I may be misremembering this, but I'm pretty sure the main character actually references Sun Tzu in one of the fucking cutscenes. Like the art of war, Chinese, the tactics of war and psychological warfare and all these things. But then like the uncle is just like, okay, let's charge on to this, like, let's send like 100 guys just straight into this, like, right on this narrow bridge with no escape, and with all these trebuchets shooting, firing like these flaming balls onto them, and it's just like, and have them die, like really,
That was a pretty stupid plan. Yeah,
like, of course Jin is gonna have a problem with that. Like, who wouldn't? Like, you're a fucking war general, and like you're just letting your guys die like this. Like,
what's gonna protect us against all those arrows? Our honor.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, it's a little ridiculous. I know that obviously the honor system does play a huge role in the history of the samurai, but I'm quite sure it's not to that extent, where it's just nonsensical, especially in terms of like warfare. But yeah,
I think so. Like the one, so I got two things to note. One that kind of is the rebuttal to my argument, and then another one is to further give reason why the story wasn't fleshed out. So I'll go rebuttal first. The rebuttal is like one of the story aspects that between the swordsman and the straw hats, like the leader of the straw hats, when we got that scene of him kind of just with the Mongols, right, and he's basically killing innocents to help his own people. And I'm like, okay, I feel for that. Like, that really kind of puts him in a really strange situation. And, like, I understand that he's doing it for survival's sake. And he put his honor, like, out the window. He threw it out, basically, right? So that makes sense. I get it. That I hope, like, I get to experience more of that story. because then it'll draw closer to this whole strife between honor and doing what it needs to be to survive. And then at the same time, though, like there's the other essence is that again, there's this whole aspect of like, well, I mean, why aren't we getting aspects where the samurai themselves, like they use tactics, but they sacrifice people more, and more so in the way that is part of their tactics, and then their way of thinking of it is that, oh, I'm doing that for the betterment of everybody because we have no other choice. And we are at a higher level of honor than they are, right? Like, so that way we need to do what we need to make it happen. And I think, like...
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that's what the story is going for, but it doesn't come across. It's not executed well. Because I feel like that is what they're trying to say, but it really never comes across very clearly throughout the entire story.
Like, they don't say it out loud, or they don't even have that debate, or like have those characters ask those questions to Jin. Is like, hey, you know, I know this. I know what he wants for a tactic, but you realize that he's like sacrificing these people for the betterment of of what he thinks is honorable, but what you're doing to save more people as the ghost, right? Like the ghost is the symbol, the same as the samurai is the symbol, right? So like they're always trying to like play this label on them, right? And what's the better way to go about it? Because going the ghost route could be saving more people's lives than it is going the whole I'm just the samurai and I'm just gonna command everybody to do these tactics.
Well, yeah, there's a downside to both, right? And I don't know if you've gotten to the part of the story where they really show the downside of the ghost, where it's like, oh, now the Mongols have the poison that you made, like, and they're using it against like your own people. Like, it's like there's a downside to both, where it's like, okay, the ghost like is like, I feel like the story doesn't lean enough into the theme of what they I feel like they're trying to say, which is like, I understand
the consequence to losing that honor.
Yeah, I mean, like, I understand we have honor, but it's adapt or die. Like, and the ghost is an adaptation. That's what he is. Like, he's there because he has to be there. If he wasn't there, then Tsushima would be fucked. Like, that's the whole point. Like, it's dishonorable, it's whatever, but like, he is there because if he doesn't stealth in and poison the Mongols and like use psychological warfare on them to scare them, then it's not like the samurai way isn't working, so we need something else. And they don't. Yeah, again, I just feel like it's sort of almost, it's not a failure, but it's just like the writing is not where it should be to really convey the themes that I think that the game is trying to put forward.
Yeah, I was hoping that they would really kind of delve into it deeper in the main story. So far, like with the side stories, you get some small hint of other people having conflicts similar to Jin, I suppose. The monk is interesting, and then the thief is also interesting. I hope I get more of them.
I finished the thief's story.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a little underwhelmed, honestly.
Okay.
Especially because I had been doing, and that's another one of the issues with having that kind of structure, where you can just go and do whatever you want. I had already forgotten what the whole, like story thread through the thief story was. So by the time I reached its climax, while pretty and like in its presentation, and I'm sure that it had something significant to say, I honestly just kind of lost it. I just kind of lost the story thread. I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm done with that.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way about all the side missions, honestly. I like we were saying before, I like the mythic tales; those are fun, and I like the story, sort of the whatever they're called, the like the tale. I don't remember what they're called, but like I think they're all called Tales of Tsushima. But like the sort of run of the mill like 5-minute side missions that you have to do. Those are all pretty boring to me because, like you were saying, Carlos, before, they're all kind of the same. Like, they follow the same formula. But then you have, like, the character-specific ones, like you were talking about, like Yuna and Ishikawa, the archer. Like his story is super interesting, and like him dealing with his mentor, sort of.
His apprentice, I mean.
Yeah, his apprentice.
Yeah. He's the mentor of this woman who he took off the street, and she's a prodigy. She's a prodigy archer, and she's amazing. Right. And then she
betrays Tsushima.
Yeah, it's assumed that that she betrays him, but like we get in a window into their relationship and exactly what happened, and then we get to know her a bit, and it's good, but it's still sort of lackluster. Like, I don't know, the execution and the delivery of it still it leaves something to be desired. And also, once again, going back into the outdated sort of aspect of this game is that, like, the way that it's set up, like, so the way that most like open world games are set up these days, with these like sort of threaded multi-mission side quests, is that it's like, okay, you meet this person, you do this thing, okay, here's the next step of the side quest, and you can either decide to do it or you can not, but it'll flow pretty organically until it's done. Whereas in this, it's like, okay, there's 9 parts to this. Okay, here's the first part. You do this, you kill some Mongols. Okay, done. Now meet me at this location. Okay, and then you have to like go to that location and then start part 2, and you have to do the same thing and then go to this location and start part 3. Whereas just like most open worlds are like, okay, we got to do this next part of it. Do you want to go now, or do you want to like do you want to keep going with the side mission now, or do you want to do something else? And it'll give you the choice in the moment, so that if you want it, if you're super engaged and you want to keep going with the side mission to see what happens, you don't have to take a break. It's just like, okay, let's just go there. Let's just do it now. And that's not an option in this game. So everything is broken apart, and it takes you out of the immersion immediately. Where it's just like, okay, well, I'm right next to you. We could literally go do this right now. But okay, I'll meet you in this location in like 3 days, and we'll start. Like, it's just it doesn't really make any sense, and it really it breaks the momentum of the whole thing.
How do you think the game would be best played, as far as tackling this the main story and the side missions?
I mean, the way I play most open world games is I especially if the side missions are like really engaging, but I'd like the story is too. I'll mix it up, and I like to finish everything like at once. So I'll finish like the mains, like I'll finish the breadth of the side missions at the same time I'm finishing the story. But with this one, like, again, most of the side missions weren't compelling enough for me to like sort of mix and match the story missions with the side missions as I was going through. So I would do like a side mission or two, and then I would just explore around the world and find like fox dens and Shinto shrines and Inari shrines and all these different things, and go into the duels, which I love. The duels are like my favorite part of the game. Like I just it's so cinematic, and it's obviously they have the Kurosawa like photo mode and stuff, and that's those duels are very Akira Kurosawa. Like, they're awesome. Like, the one-on-one duels are amazing, and they're cinematic, and you have like all the the environment is amazing, and it's you really got to focus, and your opponents are highly skilled, and you got to think about what you do. Like, it's those duels you cannot mash your way through. You can't. Like, you will die every time, and it's really cool because they all their movesets are very different, and the way they counter and the way they parry it's all very different, and you got to be on your toes for every single one, and it's awesome. And so I would mix and match that stuff, and then I would do like a side mission or two. I'd do like a Yuna side mission, like part 1 of 4 of hers or whatever. But like I think like when Act 2, like, because for me, like, in terms of the story, Act 1 was like pretty boring, and then when I got to Act 2, like, it started picking up with the story, and I was like, okay, and then Act 3 is like amazing in terms of the main story missions, and so it gets better and better in that way in terms of the main story. But most of my time up until the end of the main story, I pretty much just mainline the main missions with a bit of exploration here or there. And then now, after that, I'm done with the main game and going for the platinum and stuff, I'm doing the side missions. But again, it's the side missions are not compelling enough for me to look at listen to the dialogue or anything. So I've just been like listening to podcasts while I'm grinding through it because it's just not interesting to me at all. Like
So
yeah.
my question to you would be, do you think you have to do some of the side missions to get most of the, main story, or is it? Hmm?
Like in terms of like, especially with those character specific ones, like with Yuna and Ishikawa and like Noru or whatever his name is, like the monk.
Oh yeah,
Like
that
you
monk.
don't have to. That stuff really doesn't affect this. Definitely doesn't affect the main story at all, and it doesn't like in terms of like it's not something. Again, once again, that many open worlds have gotten past and learned to do way better, and it's sort of just like a normal thing these days. It's not like, oh well, I've done the missions for this character before this main story point, so now I get like extra dialogue with this character in the main story, or I get something more from doing the side missions, and I get to know the characters more in the main story, and that sort of it works like together to like make me love these characters more. It's not like that. Like it's really like, okay, like it's just totally separate.
It's very
Like
peripheral. It's you
yeah,
can.
that yeah, it's very separate. Where it's just like you get to know the characters more on the side missions, but it's not gonna at least not for me. It's not gonna increase your enjoyment of the main game when you interact with those characters in the main story at all.
Yeah, I don't feel like much for the character development for other characters much.
Yeah,
I don't think it's like I don't feel like I even need to know them at all for
yeah. I
the
mean,
story to
you
move
really
forward.
don't. Yeah,
I think it's only mechanically in terms of gameplay, maybe. Like if you wanted to go through certain levels efficiently in a way where it doesn't like you're not getting like a frustrated situation.
Mhm.
You would just you're basically farming for, for abilities in the
yeah. I mean, that
shards.
is it.
Yeah.
That is it. You're using the open world and the side missions to get better, so that the combat in the main missions is not as tough. Like that's so that you can have more skills, so that you can have like enough skill points and your stances are leveled up. Like that's the first thing I leveled up. So it's like, and once your stances are leveled up, like it makes the game way easier. And then you
Right.
can you integrate throwing kunai and stealth bombs and
Yeah.
like using the stealth mechanics like with the wind chimes and stuff, and using those as noise distractions and having your chain assassination techniques. All this stuff, but it's really yeah. I do feel like the open world is almost a tool just to make the
To
main
unlock
story,
all this. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
to
Like
make the main story more accessible almost.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's always like also like one of the things that um that always makes me hesitate about open world games that have this like RPG elements. The just the fear of over leveling. Like there's not so much of a fear in this one, but there kind
Yeah,
of is. Like having too many
a
tools that
little bit.
make you like yeah. Yeah, having like too many tools that make you like too powerful just kind of um makes the makes some of the scenarios just a little too uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Trivial to go through.
Right. You're overpowered for it.
Y-
So far
Yeah,
I haven't felt like I felt the opposite where it's like if I don't have the tools if I don't have the tools then I'm pretty fucked. Like
yeah.
especially when I first started playing, when Brendan was watching me play, I was getting so frustrated with the camera. Shooting with the arrows was shit.
Yeah.
And if I storm a fort, I am fucking boned. They are
Yeah,
gonna tackle me and wreck me. But then, obviously now it's like, because I took the time to actually level up, or rather, gain enough points and figure out a way of doing combat that worked for me, then it became like pretty fun in the sense that it was still, I mean, minorly challenging, but like at the same time, I don't feel like I'm getting just tackled to hell and back again.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to Alex the other day because he's like he didn't get that far in it before he was like I can't. I'm not really into this. And it's true.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, and it. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I totally get that because it took me probably a good 4 or 5 hours to kind of get into the game as well. Like it is very much like the amount of skills you have dictates how much fun you're going to have with the game. Yeah. Like I have all the skills now, and I'm having a lot of more fun in the combat.
Actually, can I ask you? Like, okay, so you and me talked, and you didn't have the Wrath of Dancing, blah blah blah, whatever the fuck that thing is called. The Dance of Wrath, I think. Whatever. Anyways,
yeah, Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's the Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Sure. Yeah. It's the one where you do a 3-strike thing, and you play through the game without that. And on top of that, my question is, how much of your stuff did you get? What kind of build did you do to get through the game? Because I feel like it's gonna be a completely different experience if I were to just bomb rush it the way that I was expecting to. But then when I talked to you, I was like, oh fuck, there's more of those missions, where it's and then now it makes me think, fuck, now I have to go that route. Like I have to build towards a route where I have to use stealth more often. Or a mix of stuff.
Not necessarily. I mean, in terms of like, so in the game, like you can level up different armor, right? Like you have the Ghost armor, and you have the Sakai clan armor, and you have like the one that Lady Misako gives you, which gives you like a lot less damage and like more health.
But at the same time, see, here's the thing: there's only so many missions you can do till you get to a point where you've leveled everything else except for the stealth stuff. I actually was going that route.
Like the Ghost armor and stuff?
Yeah, that shit, I wasn't even going to touch it. Like, I barely touched it because I was
I didn't, I mean, I haven't touched it I'm doing it now because I've spent all my other skill points and I still have other skill points and I've already leveled everything else up. So I'm just like, I might as well level up the Ghost armor. But, like, I didn't use aside from the couple of missions where, like, you have to use it. Like the game makes you use it. Like the Ghost armor, aside from those like 2 or 3 missions, like even with the stealth stuff where I was talking about with like the instant kill stuff or the instant fail missions, like I still used the Sakai armor a lot. Like and it's not stealthy at all. Like that armor is not stealthy. It's beefy and it's fucking like chunky and like you just take you take a shit ton of damage.
Yeah.
And that stuff is fine. Like in terms of the armor and stuff, it doesn't really matter aside from those 2 or 3 missions. I think you can because they like for me like my play style for this game is like the stealth is fine. Like I use it I think more now in the end game where I'm like just going through the side missions and rescuing farmsteads and like liberating outposts and stuff. Like I'm using the stealth more than now because I have all the abilities and I have the smoke bombs and I have the maximum number of kunai and I have all the skills and stuff. Like I'm using the stealth now more because it's just easier to use because I have everything. But like in the main game, like unless it was one of those instant fail missions, for my playstyle, it was almost more advantageous to just go in guns a-blazing than to stealth. Because like the stealth is very finicky and it's not as polished as a lot of stealth games are these days or games with stealth in them. So I would just go in guns a-blazing and just like, fight everybody, and it was actually easier for me to do that than stealthing it. So I mean it. And again, because the way the AI works and the way the stealth is sort of half baked, it's very much like, oh shit, there's too many people on me. I shouldn't have picked this fight. Let me run into this hut, and then there's 20 people around it, and then they don't see me, so they just forget where I am, and then I just stealth everybody. It's not very well done, so it's sort of easy to get around that unless you are in those 2 or 3 story missions.
It doesn't really make sense, like how you lose them sometimes. Like
doesn't make doesn't make sense at all.
And then other times when you're trying to lose them, then they're still seeing you from a mile away.
Yeah, and again, that speaks to the modernity of this game. And when you compare it to something like the stealth in The Last of Us, where the characters are talking, and if you kill one, if you stealth one in mid conversation, they're like, wait, that's not how a conversation ends. Let me go investigate that. Like in this one, it's like you can kill them anytime, and they're just like, what was that? I guess it's nothing. I guess Joe is fine. It must have been the wind. I'm gonna walk the other way, and it's just like, again, it's such a game from 2014. Like it's so outdated.
Right.
I mean, I just feel sorry for the NPCs just because they really can't look up and must have like a really stiff
Yeah,
neck.
they fucking can't.
they're so
It's 100% true.
Yeah.
You're like maybe like 2 feet up, above them. They're like, oh, nobody around here.
Yeah.
And it depends too, because I'm messing around now with like the different charms and like stacking some, and
Yeah.
like definitely like when I was doing the whole like, okay, I'm just like really beefy and stuff like that, and I can just take them all on together, or I'll do the archery setup where I'll just kill them all in one standoff sequence, and that's all fun and good, but in trying to put the stealth on, and I put on enough stealth, and I don't feel the difference between sneaking with it or without it. Like,
You mean like the stealth mechanics?
yeah, like slower detection, lower detection.
Yeah.
All
That's
that
why I
shit.
don't. That's why I don't
like,
use the
what?
ghost armor at all, because like it doesn't make that much of a difference. I
Yeah.
feel like the stealth mechanics themselves, like using the smoke bombs and stuff, that helps me a lot. But in terms of the ghost armor, it's like I very rarely use it for that exact reason.
Which is so bad in the sense too, like once you get caught, now all those things you stacked and went through the trouble of doing all the side missions go out the window. Which is why
it's more advantageous to just wear beefy armor, because it's like, oh, I'm gonna get caught, so I might as well just be able to like fucking plow through these guys.
Right, exactly. And then like what was it? It's same thing with the other situations too. When you have duels, but you have ghost armor on you practically, or you have ghost mechanics just set up, and you're like, wait, but this is a duel. None of that matters.
Right.
So then you can armor swap.
Yeah.
Thank God. In the middle of the fight, like you can just literally switch all your armor in the middle of, like right there in front of the person. You just press top.
Wait, hold on.
You're like, hold on.
Yeah.
Just 1 second. Let me switch all my charms, all my fucking weapons, and let me color code it too, because I really want to look good killing you.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up for the duels specifically, because that was another thing that really pissed me off. Like, I love the duels, but the way they start you in the duels, they start you with the amount of health that you came into the duel with.
Yeah.
Like, so if you come into the duel, and this happened to me so many times, because I was just there's like special duels that you can find like in the open world, that I think there's like 5 of them that are like, they're super tough, but they're really fun. Like, you don't get many rewards out of them or anything, but they're a lot of fun. And if I've just been in a standoff where I've taken out like 5 guys, but then I've been hit a couple times and my resolve is lower, and I go into a duel, like, unlike most games where it's like, okay, this is a super tough encounter, we're going to start you with full health, they start you with like the amount you come in with. And the problem is like, okay, well, you just die in the duel and then you come back in with full health. Or you just die in the duel and then you go and you do something else and then get your health back and then you come back. You can't leave. Right. Like, when you start a duel, you can't fucking leave. So, like, if you start with 1.5 circles of resolve, you're stuck at that for the entire duel. Now, eventually, if you die enough, they will very slowly start to give you more resolve every time you die, because it's like, oh, you're a baby, you don't know how to do this. It's like, but it's like, if you would have just either let me leave or started me at the same level as the other guys, it would have been more fair. Like, it really drove me insane, because it's just like, these duels, like even some of the main story ones, like some of the last duels you have in the story, which are supposed to be awesome, and they are totally just like, they're not as good as they can be, because you're so frustrated with the low amount of health you have. And not really sure why they decided to do that. Yeah, it's an odd choice.
Yeah.
On a side note, don't you just hate it when the video game, when you die maybe 1 or twice in that at that moment, and the game just kind of tells you,
Would you
hey,
like
you
to
can load.
knock down the difficulty?
It's
Are
like,
you a
no.
baby? You
Yeah,
want to
it's
go
like,
on baby mode now? It's like
it's like,
I
no,
got
fuck
you.
you, shut up.
Give me a break.
I can do this. Shut the fuck up.
I get it, and I get it when games do that after like 20 deaths or so. But like,
Yeah.
if you die like once or twice, and the game's like, would you like to have senior citizen mode on now? It's like I'm fine. Like,
Senior
it's part of the
citizen
game.
mode.
It's a learning curve.
Oh my god! Did anybody?
Uh,
I'm assuming everybody fought Kojiro, right? Like the duel with the 5 straw hat guys, and then got the Kensei armor or whatever.
You're talking about the mythic tale?
It's a mythic tale, I believe.
I think that's the only one I haven't found yet, which is
Okay.
odd because I've cleared the entire map, like in terms of question marks and stuff. But yeah, that's the only mythic tale I haven't found yet.
So that
Was-
guy, I think, is one of the most frustrating duels I've had. The guy just
Interesting.
obliterates your health so quickly, and he's the one where he's like supposedly the Straw Hats' top killer that he like once, like I guess like something like they banned him at one point, but then because of this whole situation they've reinstated his membership to the Straw Hats for some reason. But anyways, he's supposed to be like well-known killer, and he is just like literally has no grievance, like he doesn't care who he kills. And I have to say that was like the only fight that was like the most frustrating, just because he did so much damage and kept and I get him so close to getting killed so many times,
Right.
and yet he just was like, hit me a couple times and it's just like I'm dead now. And I was just like stuck there for like the longest time, and I was thinking about like, man, if I came in with any other build and I was not like had enough health and had enough kind of resolve to come back from, I would have been just so dead. Like, what if I played the whole game with doing only stealth ever, and then now I only have these charms, and these charms are useless in this fight.
Right.
I would have been just destroyed. It's so weird. And I think that's when I come to realize, like, I'm pretty sure this game is one of those types where it's like, if you're not well prepared, you're gonna get fucked. Like, you're not gonna have a good time. It's like a Mega Man effect where you don't have the right ability for the right boss. Yeah, and then now you're just gonna have to. You're handicapped the entire time.
Right.
Yeah. Let me know when you get to that fight, because people's experiences might be different than mine's.
Yeah.
My one frustration that I will never stop complaining about is the fact that the game just doesn't have a lock-on feature.
I wanted to talk about that because, how do you feel about that, Carlos?
It's a struggle having to. It's really annoying having to struggle with the camera.
Yeah.
Most of those fights, like, there's no transparency, so if your camera's stuck behind a wall, good luck.
Right.
Half the time, every game has some sort of automation, some sort of like, okay, we're gonna aim assist you to this one thing, and a lot of the times, like, I'm trying to kill one guy because he's about to kill the citizens or the little peasants that I'm trying to protect, but no, I instead end up killing the other guy that's on the other side. I'm like, no, motherfucker, I'm trying to kill the other guy.
Yeah, or like when you're trying to kill somebody and then Jin just turns away and just starts slashing at the air. That's the best.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's fun. You hold down triangle and then you poke the wrong direction. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm clearly holding the direction you're supposed to be, but I'm guessing.
Yeah, the lack of lock-on system is interesting, and I know that Sucker Punch in their development, I saw a development, like a dev diary for them, and they were talking about like how they went back and forth, like putting a lock-on system in and not putting it in, and like they had it in the game and they took it out, and they had it in, they took it out, and they eventually obviously came down on the side of not having one in, and it bothered me. Like it still bothers me.
What was their the logic behind
Well,
looking as a
here's the thing, like, because it bothered me at
reason.
first a lot. Like it bothered, and it still does to an extent because again, like you were saying, the camera sucks and it's very tricky, especially when you're getting mobbed by different guys to lock on to, like, even have some sort of aim assist and lock on to that specific guy you're trying to kill. But like as I played further and further into the game, while I still have a problem with it, I don't know exactly. I don't think the lock on system would work in later levels in the game because of the sheer number of people that you fight like at once. It because the way that the enemies work, like you might have like maybe two shield guys approaching you and from one side, and then two, like a spear guy and a sword guy approaching you from the other side. And if you go for one of the shield guys, sometimes the shield guy will back off and the sword guy will instead come in front of him, and it totally breaks your line of sight with the one guy you were targeting. And I feel like if there was a lock-on system, it would have a lot of trouble. I still feel like it would have a lot of trouble targeting the right person, simply because of the way the enemies sort of weave in and out of each other's pathing. Like, I just feel like it would still be a major issue. And I think I don't know if that's the reason they took it out, but I feel like that is the reason. Yeah, because again, I still have such a huge. It does make combat really frustrating sometimes, and I still get in a lot of situations where I'm fighting a bunch of guys and Jin just turns away from everybody and just does a full combo in the air and like towards the air, and he gets slashed a million times from behind, and it drives me insane. But I do feel like ultimately the lock-on system, it's better to not have it in.
Yeah, I think we were all talking about it at some point. That I was mentioning that maybe it would have been better to have the camera naturally pull back, so that it had more of a the more and more people that were in the fight, the more the camera can like pull back above you more than or like a la like Batman,
right?
Like so that you actually see everybody. And you can target people just around you one at a time, but obviously that would mean that he would have to dash really far.
Yeah, I think exactly. I think that has to do with the limits of the combat, why that wouldn't work either, just because of the way that Batman works in the free flow system and in the Arkham games. Yeah, the way that he can like, okay, I'm going to target, I'm going to target this guy all the way on the across the room, and he can just like flip over there instantly. Right. Jin can't do that, so yeah.
Like he has a double dash, but that's like an ability that you have. And I find myself
he does, but even that's not going to cover the distance you need a lot of the times. Oh yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I agree. It's not going to cover the distance for sure. Yeah.
How do you guys feel about the parkour in the game? Do you like it? Does it work for you?
No.
It's definitely the worst part of the game.
You know what I did with the shooting the arrow shit? Like I just turned on lock on with it. Like I didn't.
Oh really?
Yeah, I didn't like. I tried it like doing the whole thing without it, and then I was just like, I can't stand it. It's just like it's more frustrating to have to learn how to like do like. Dealing with the camera already is a problem, and now you got to deal with the fact that you have to shoot people, and you got all these people charging at you. You don't have enough concentration, and if I have to do that, then I have to stack my concentration charms for that and my armor just to give me enough time to shoot everybody. And even then,
the ability, the concentration ability,
and to even get the concentration ability in the first place too. Yeah, so you have to like get there to that point where it's fun to use it, and then and then you don't have a lot of situations sometimes. Sometimes it's just like you never use it, and then you have to switch things up again. So like eventually, I just like I switched it to a lock on. I found that on the menus.
That's interesting.
I was like, fuck it. I was like, I'm gonna do that. Because it's just
it's so
annoying you have to deal with the fucking archers.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it plays into, obviously, like you can they telegraph when they're going to shoot and stuff, but like
Yeah,
if there's a bunch of them, it's still a pain. But like it definitely does harken back to what I was saying about like the game being a lot more fun when you have all the skills, because like I had that same I never used the like I never like had too much of a problem with the like firing the bow, but like I definitely use it a lot more now that I have like the concentration ability all the way up, because
yeah.
it's just way easier to like freeze time and then like take out 2 or 3 guys before they charge into you.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
think
it's
what happened to me was I happened to come across, again, is open world problem, where like I was in the beginning of the game and exploring, and I happened to run into a situation where the I'm at a bridge and there's a hostage in the middle of the bridge, and then there's two archers or two separate teams of archers on each side, and you have to parkour and shoot them at the same time.
right.
And this is at the time where I barely had anything. Like all I'm doing is exploring, and I'm not even built for the situation. And then like I was just
Right.
like I'm struggling with the parkour not being accurate, and the shooting the arrow and arrows. I don't even fucking know where the guy was. Like they don't even have an indicator. Like you didn't
Right.
have that like ability to even see it, like incoming. You just heard him, and then he's like off in the
Oh
distance, and
yeah,
I'm like, I can't see him. He blends in with the background. Like,
yeah.
Brenda was watching me getting so frustrated over that. It was really funny, actually.
I
Was
think
just
that
like,
one of
fuck.
my most frustrating parts with the bow and arrow was just that one part where you're supposed to kill a bunch of guys on a cliff, and they're all shooting you like at the same time. It's like, oh my god, just let me shoot, motherfuckers! Stop interrupting me.
Yeah.
Right.
One after another is shooting at you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
You had
was
to like parkour your way down to like the cliffs. I was like,
Yeah,
ugh.
that's the cliff. Is it the one with the guy that's a hostage in the middle of the bridge?
Yes,
Yeah, that's
yes.
the one I was talking about. That's when I realized I was just like, no, there has to be something I need to do here,
Hmm.
and I'm like looking through the menus, and I happen to find it.
Yeah.
I was like,
I imagined that was the point where you just like became too frustrated, because that was really frustrating me.
yeah,
Um,
it was just like, what is going on here?
yeah, I unfortunately have the stupid instinct of just like smashing my head against the wall until either the wall or my head breaks.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, the parkour for me is
I like the
it's
grapple
it.
hook just because it actually has physics.
Yeah, yeah, the grapple hook's pretty good.
Yeah.
It definitely makes it easier, but like, I feel like, I mean, like, I just feel like the parkour, like, I feel like the parkour in Infamous, their previous games were way better than in this game, and I feel like it's again sort of showing that, sort of the dated nature of the mechanics in this game, where it's like it wasn't until 2014 that the Assassin's Creed games actually let you parkour down. Like I remember specifically one of the selling points of Unity, which was that you could parkour up and parkour down just as easily. Like you could do both just as easily, and people were like, "Oh man, that's amazing!" And it was amazing for that franchise because they just hadn't really thought it through before. Like you would either get to a super high point where you climbed and you would dive off like into a bale of hay, or you would just like have to just drop and die, which
Right.
happens a lot in those old Assassin's Creed games. And I feel like even though in this
It
game,
was
like
always good for a laugh.
it was, I mean, until you did it 20 times and it was fucking annoying and you wanted to fucking kill yourself. But yeah, I mean, it was
if there
like,
was no consequences, then yeah, laughing about it is fine. But
I
if
mean,
there
that's
was
my
like
point. Is that like
huge
a lot of people have been
consequences,
comparing this to like, oh well, it's better than a Ubisoft game, it's better than Assassin's Creed, and I get it to an extent, but like I prefer when I climb up a mountain, I prefer to be able to just get off of the mountain really easily. Like let me I don't give a fuck. Give me a bale of hay to dive into like a 100 stories down. I don't care. I just want to get to the bottom quickly. And
right?
like or give me a fucking hang glider a la Breath of the Wild, right? Like especially in this environment, that would be beautiful and amazing, and it would also fit the sort of ingenuity that Jin has to come up with as becoming a ninja, right? Like becoming the
Right.
ghost. Like it would make perfect sense. And it's just like
How does he have these skills all of a sudden?
You know, I'm glad
I
that you
guess he
mentioned.
just learns.
Yeah,
I don't fucking know.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Who knows?
Another
I'm glad.
story versus gameplay problem.
I'm glad that you mentioned Breath of the Wild, because that is one of the prime examples of like parkour, like that kind of scaling up and down, done right, and that um, it felt revolutionary when it came to Breath of the Wild, simply because you could, go up, every single wall or every mounting everywhere.
Right.
Whereas like Ghost of Tsushima, like that's my biggest beef with like the parkouring with with all this like platforming. The fact that there's specific points at that mount at that hill that you can actually scale. There's no
Right.
other place.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's just super, it's just super telegraphed. It's like the whole thing that we used to make fun of is like, oh, I guess this, white paint tells me where to go.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I agree with that for sure. Parkour is pretty meh. There's no way to get down type of thing, and even if you get that skill that makes it so that you can roll on the ground,
Yeah.
to not make it damage you, I'm all like, I have to go and get the skill, and
Yeah.
you fucking gotta be kidding me. Like, I don't understand why you're making me do this.
Right.
You could just leave it in there. Like, it's just kind of that. It's almost fluff. And on top of that, it doesn't add to the story of like that I just mentioned. Was like, how the fuck does like ninjas don't just fucking learn to be ninjas? God, for crying out loud! Like, and why are we learning being a ninja from a fucking thief? They're not all starting as thieves, either. I don't know. Like, I feel like there's just some of this, like, the learning curve that he goes through is, like, non-existent. You just go around and get skills.
Right. So, I mean, like you talked about it a little bit before, Carlos, in terms of the minimal HUD and stuff, like it being, like, not...
Right, you being bug guided by the wind instead of...
How do you like that?
I like the fact that they're doing that. It's probably something that I mean, I have my gripes in that sometimes you don't exactly know exactly where to go.
Yeah.
But it's a fine compromise to me, just because the game world is not exactly that complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's what I mean. I think a lot of people echo that sentiment, and I think that's a big selling point for a lot of people in this game, and why they keep comparing it to like Ubisoft games. Is like there's not obviously there's not a mini map, and then there's not a mission marker or anything, and you don't go on the map and there's 100 million things that are like marked for you to do or whatever. But like, and I like the wind. It took me a while to sort of warm up to the wind guiding you mechanic.
Right. Yeah, but you swipe. But you're right. Like, there's definitely really big. I'm sure that you have a problem with it, and I can definitely echo that, because sometimes you have to swipe it so many times. You have to swipe the thing to tell you where to go, like so many times as you go along.
Just to know where you're going to go, and sometimes you're traveling really far distances. You have to just swipe it constantly. But yeah, also, I mean, the problem with like not having like mission markers specifically, and having to use the wind to guide you all the fucking time, is like when you're like clearing out outposts and farmsteads, and there's like a few hostages that you have to rescue. That it actually becomes a problem, because you can't. Sometimes they don't let you, you'll swipe and they're like, no, you're already where you need to be. Like, you don't need this anymore. And I'm like, but I do need it, because I need to see where the hostage is. And sometimes sometimes there's like 4 hostages, and you'll rescue like 3 of them, and you'll clear the rest of the camp, and everyone's cleared, and the hostage doesn't show up on like the detective mode, or the red where you press the touchpad, and he doesn't show up. Like, they just don't show up, and like, and you have to just run around for however long it takes you to find
until
them.
You find, yeah, I know exactly. Yeah. It's the problem that happened to like try to find like needle in the haystack, and like that's once you're like really close to that location, you can neither swipe nor there's anything that tells you where to go. They're like
yeah.
So yeah, I was actually having that exact problem with I can't remember what it was, but it was inside one of the towns. One of the one of the main towns where you most of your upgrades. Where I was like, right, this telling me to go somewhere, but I don't know where to go.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so it. Even though I really appreciate the mechanic and I have grown to actually like it quite a bit, there are times where I'm just like, can I just put a mission marker on? Like, please, like, just give me the option that I don't care if the HUD is not cluttered or anything. That's fine, but like, I just want to know where to go so that I don't get frustrated, because there is a lot of stuff to do, and sometimes there's a lot of enemies and hostages and stuff. So
Yeah, it's kind of funny too. Is like if you end up stealthing it like the game wants you to, you end up losing track of where you're fucking going.
yeah. Again, like it's
The enemies
sometimes
help
more
indicate where the fuckers are.
yeah, it's sometimes easier to find hostages in that situation if you just go in guns a-blazing, because then the enemies will run towards the hostage to try to kill them, so you know where they are instantly.
Yeah, it's actually an advantage.
Yeah.
So it's so funny. Yeah, I think maybe it, like maybe they could have added more to make the gameplay and the gameplay and the story more cohesive, in the sense that give me another tactic that gives me the advantage if I have to stealth, right? What if they're playing mind games with me? Like if they know where I am, what if they're able to ghost? Like, are they able to do that?
But that would require competent AI.
Exactly, right?
So,
exactly, right? Like, I don't understand this fucking Mongol threat, to be honest. Like, how are they scary? Like, give me.
They can't even look up. I mean,
Yeah,
really
I mean, really. Like, let's just say they couldn't make the AI any smarter. Well, then add another class that does something that's different from them, that compensates for their issues. I mean, it already you have multi-class fucking enemies there, and you're switching up your stances to fight them. But where does it come into play where the stealth is giving the full advantage, or the necessary advantage for the fight? Because but there's no class that kind of like opposes that or something, or that
can counter it.
Or like forces you to do so, or whatnot.
That's a good point, actually, because I mean, from the jump, like in the first cutscene where the samurai commander comes up to Kutan Khan, and the guy Kutan Khan literally just takes a vat of oil and sets him on fire.
I was expecting that. I was expecting at some point in the game this tactic won't work, but no, standoff's the best thing to do. It became easier and easier, and I
didn't really think of that.
I fucking totally thought that some fucking crazy guy's gonna come up behind me and then just stab me while the standoff is happening. So I had no awareness of it, or some other motherfucker is throwing a vat of oil on me too and setting me on fire in the middle of the standoff.
That would have been cool, because I mean, the Khan instantly realizes this guy is different. Like, he's different than the other samurai. He's using psychological warfare and he's using stealth.
Right.
Like, it would make sense for him to start training his own men to counter that, and for you to meet them later on in the game.
And why can't we I mean, see, that's the thing. Like, Kojiro, the guy who was fighting Kojiro, and then the other one that was fighting to get the Dance of Wrath, like, these characters, they would have been easily interesting characters to have as boss fights for the Mongols. Like, if the Mongols he can't be just the one guy that commands all this just mindless zombie, army. He has to have
that's true. There were no lieutenants in the game, were there?
It needs to have those kind of guys where I feel like they are opposing me in a way where I have to change my tactics, and that way the gameplay and the story would make sense. Because then
I mean, there were actually lieutenants in some of the camps, but they didn't operate any differently than the mindless AI drones around them.
I thought that was was kind of enticing for me, was to fight these guys that were captains of these fortresses, and then you're learning a new skill from them. And a la Mega Man, you're being one and you're using that ability on another, because that's a weakness for another, right? So I felt like that was just lost in translation in the end. Could have been pulled together better. What was the other thing? Oh yeah,
That
that's
makes me.
right. Sorry, let me mention about
No, go
like
ahead, go ahead.
the gust thing, the wind thing.
Mhm.
When you run past it and you don't realize, and then now you have to turn
Yeah, you
around.
had to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, it happens all the time for
Right,
sure.
and then what about so jumping sucks again? What about so many times fucking leaping off with my horse and then like landing and doing a Yoshi situation? I jump off and the horse dies.
Honestly,
Well,
I
I
never.
do like it actually that the horse doesn't die. Like
Yeah, he doesn't
it
die.
literally,
Yeah.
you can like literally leap off of a cliff and he falls and then he gets back up and then he gets back up instantly, which is something most open world games don't do. So I actually
Yeah.
do appreciate that like quick like
Right, we
just
don't
quick
have
like get
to.
up and go thing. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Or you slash the horse by accident. You just
that happens all the fucking time.
fucking-
Still to me, still
Yeah.
because like you
You-
press R2 to get on instead of triangle like every other game in existence.
like a
I have
triangle
to
or a
admit
square
that's
or
never
something like
happened
that.
to
It's
me.
so funny.
Well, you can actually hurt your own horse, though.
Doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt them, but you can slash them.
You
It
slash
doesn't.
it,
You
but-
can't actually kill them or
Yeah,
hurt them. No.
there's no death for it. It's very forgiving in that sense.
You can't kill your own horse and eat its own meat, like in the original Red Dead.
Oh yeah.
I used to skin my horse just for the
Oh, my
just for the
God.
fucked up value of it, because it really didn't give you anything other than
No.
you know.
Yeah, that's the disturbing nature of it. It's like I won't do
Yes.
this in real life, but in this game, it gave me the choice. So this is funny.
But you can never lose your horse, right?
No,
In this game,
not that I know.
even if you
not
start riding some other
exactly.
horses.
Of. Oh, okay. Story reasons, baby.
Story reasons, yes.
I see.
But yeah.
Oh my god.
Hey,
I really
without
find
being-
that so. I hate those excuses where it's like, you know, like when you have a story where a person dies and you're just like, but should I have cared? Like, like something dies and it's like it's not like I took care of them. They were just
Right.
kind of there.
I mean,
you know?
I had something of an attachment to the horse, but it's just that like in the way that it happens in this story.
Maybe
There's
Chris-
two things.
maybe
For
Chris-
one thing, it doesn't really it doesn't need to happen. Like it really, the way it happens
Oh.
really doesn't need to happen. And then the second thing is when you first play the game and you pick your horse, they're like, your horse will be with you for the rest of your journey. Make sure you pick the right horse and the right name. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
And then he's not
Yeah,
there
yeah.
for the whole journey. And you pick another horse and they're like, your horse will be with you for your whole journey. Do you want to do this? And I'm like, are you lying to me again? Or is the horse actually going to be here the whole time?
I don't get it. What is going on?
That's fine.
Again, it's a story that doesn't match the gameplay.
Yeah.
Like I'm more attached to the horse than fucking Red Dead than I am in this.
Because you were constantly brushing and feeding your horse.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
You're maintaining it.
fucking taking care of it. So it's
I
like
know.
Yeah.
there's an intimacy there, and there's
Yeah.
there's an actual consequence to just not being careful. I
Right.
think it's kind of weird though, like in retrospective of like not. I mean, I haven't
Motherfucker was
beaten
so
it.
high maintenance. Jesus.
Yeah, like it's such a huge difference, right? Gap between Red Dead and here is just like
Sure.
low maintenance, very gamey, in Ghost, and then like Red Dead's just a giant simulation. I don't know what to say. Like I feel like
I mean, there are pros and cons to both.
Yeah, there really
I've
is.
talked about a lot before. I think even on the earlier episode of the podcast
Yeah, we
of playing Red Dead 2 and
and yeah,
and
well,
Assassin's Creed Odyssey back to
yeah.
back, and it being such a breath of fresh air to go to Odyssey because it was so gamey.
right.
Because like Red Dead really is like such a simulator to an insane point that it just like gets like I love the story and it's great, but it just becomes so monotonous to go through every fucking motion of being a cowboy in those days.
Right.
Where it's just like I just want to play a game. Like I don't like, and also horses don't do that in real life. They don't
Yeah.
just collide
they don't
into
just
trees
collide
like
into
that.
trees,
They
yeah,
don't
yeah.
do that. Like
Somehow evolution didn't make them do that, huh?
I mean, aside from the stupid collision and the way the horse kind of stupidly doesn't like run out of the way or whatever, it but like in this one you're not taking care of the horse in the sense that there is no feeding, there's none of that maintenance stuff. There's no
Yeah, I mean,
other
yeah,
aspect other than just calling it and going from place to place. And then
yeah,
he's saying Sora. For me, it's Sora. I chose Sky.
yeah. It was the same for me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you
Yeah,
choose?
honestly, I'm not attached to this horse at all. Like, it's just a method of transportation.
Right. What did you name your horse, Carlos?
Me? Shadow.
Okay.
I went with the whole Kage thing because I like I like them, I like my characters being, overtly, unironically edgy. I like to make fun of them. I like to think of them as being revenants.
Right. I'm so dark.
Yeah, I'm not thanking
My
you for
honor
this.
was on the line. I watched my father die.
I used to shop at Hot Topic all the time.
One day, a Hot Topic employee threw up on me, and now I am the man I am today.
What about you? What did you call him?
I went with Sora. Sky.
Ah.
I was going to go all white theme and say that, fuck this ninja shit. I'm going in guns a blazing. Pew, pew, pew. You could see me a mile away, and yet they still don't fucking see me. I'm in pure black. I'm wearing pure white. Like, what the fuck? How can you not see me?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely wearing the Ronin, the Ronin attire, like in pure gold and stuff. I'm pimping it, man.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
A big ass hat, which of course nobody can see.
Yeah.
Me in in complete gold, big ass hat, and a tiny little bit of a white straw.
Yeah. It's perfect.
Yeah. I like those little concessions that we make. Those little suspension of disbeliefs that we make for a game.
We're making up a whole new story for it.
Yeah, exactly. What about you?
I think one. I change the colors all the time now. I used to go all white, but now I change the colors all the time. Does anybody like? Well, for me right now, the thing that's been kept me going is just messing around with all the different types of armor and leveling them up, and then like all the skills, and then like trying something different. That's been what's been pretty, I guess the only thing that really draws me at the moment for the game. Since the story doesn't really it doesn't do me much service at the moment.
Yeah. Like you said, Apollo, it's very much sum of all parts,
Yeah.
It's definitely, it doesn't excel at one thing. Like it's everything that it's doing, it's been done better in other games.
Yeah.
It ain't amazing.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other? What other parts of the game is there to talk about?
I'm sorry, but we didn't ask Apollo what he named his horse.
Sora.
Yeah, it was Sora.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a black horse. It's Sora.
Yeah, Black
The
Sky.
first one, and then the second one was, I think, like, I don't remember what it was.
Without being
Tuesday
too,
or something. I don't know.
without being,
Sora was the white one, right? Sora meant sky, I think.
Well, you can choose the name.
Oh yeah, and choose the color.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Question: Can I ask you how many chapters it is, or does that get into like spoilery territory?
What do you mean? How many acts?
How many acts? Yeah.
It's 3 acts.
Oh really? Oh. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not too long of a game. And like the main missions, it's not too long at all.
I mean, what else were you expecting for spoilers, though?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know. I thought it was gonna
guess.
be like that was my fear that I was just gonna rush through the main story,
Right.
and and that there was all that was gonna be left behind was with a bunch of side missions.
I mean, that's kind of what happened to me.
I mean,
Like what I was saying, just because the side missions are not that appealing to me. But and it's sort of the Last of Us 2 thing where, and this is again more of a gripe as just someone who's going for the platinum, not so much with the game itself, as like The Last of Us 2 has so many collectibles, like an inordinate, ridiculous amount of them. Like there's like hundreds, literally. I went through the game I went through The Last of Us, and it probably took me like 31 hours my first playthrough, and it probably 6 or 7 of those hours were just me going for collectibles, which I usually don't do in my first playthrough. But that game sort of trains you to do it because the environments are absurdly open when they don't necessarily need to be. But with this game, it's like there's so many side missions, and they're all pretty much the same. And like I think there's like 60 side missions outside of like the character side missions or something, and it's ridiculous. There's a ridiculous number of them. And again, I love side missions when they're done well, and when there's a lot of variety in them, and when you're really getting to feel for these characters and their little piece of the world, that you're interacting with at that time. And it's really cool. Like The Witcher 3 excels at that. Like the main story in that game is great, but the side missions are the meat of that game. Like the side missions are so interesting.
Right.
And yeah, this game is just the side missions are just very unappealing. But yeah, for me, the main story, again, like the first act I didn't really like. It was pretty boring, and then Act 2 picked up a lot for me, where I'm like, oh, I'm actually interested in this more, and then Act 3 is really 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 great in my opinion. And I mean, I don't think we've talked too much about it, and this is probably one of the last points we'll hit on, but this game, like the environment in this game are amazing. Like they're really, really pretty. The game, it's kind of weird because graphically, this game is not amazing. A lot of the texture work and stuff is very subpar, but the environmental art is really, really pretty. Like you go from the forests and the lush green lands to sort of the marsh wetlands area in Act 2, and then in Act 3 you go to a snowy mountainous area, and it's I'm not sure how every and on this one island it's like all the seasons at once, but I'm fine with that because it's so pretty.
That's funny.
Man.
That actually reminded me of Death Stranding because the game world actually looks a lot bigger than it actually is. It's like I think it's about smaller than San Francisco as far as square footage.
Right.
But it makes it feel like you're supposed to suspend your disbelief that the entire game world is it's pretty much the entire continental United States. So there's a lot of biomes as you go through it.
But there is gaps, like areas you can't even. There's like a whole ocean of shit that you can't even get past. So
yeah, right in the middle of the
that
United States
excuse.
too.
Yeah. So it is the whole United States, but you don't. There's a huge chunk of it that you can't explore because it's just covered in black tar or some shit.
Yeah, I forget what the explanation is. Is it that that the ghosts have completely that the original explosions just completely obliterated a whole section of the United States?
Yeah,
or is it this
pretty
just
much it obliterated it, and then the ocean essentially took over.
Oh, okay.
That a humongous section of the United States. So
that made no sense in terms of population density. So okay, Apollo, like the way that the ghosts work in Death Stranding is that the ghosts, the moment they make contact with a human being, they kind of annihilate each other in a sort of antimatter type of thing where they they annihilate each other and they explode in a giant explosion. So pretty much most of humanity went extinct because of that, because all this ghost killed more people, which from the explosions more ghosts came out, and it just became a whole entire giant chain reaction. Yeah.
I mean, wait a minute, hold on, let me if I remember correctly. So when somebody dies, if they don't get burned, that's when they quote unquote explode.
Right. They become,
but it's like it's kind of like
people no longer decompose. They become, if their bodies are not burned, they become like the chiral, ghost things. Yeah.
So it's regardless if they come in contact with the ghost or die. It's mostly just anybody dying, right? If I remember correctly. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but the ghosts definitely assist this situation in the sense that they change the environment where they're in. So, anything that would live in that area would essentially die as well, and then therefore cause another explosion, which would then cause more. But if
Yeah.
somebody's caught in the explosion, they don't explode necessarily. They just die and become part of the ghosts.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So if you die
But
of natural causes, you'll cause the explosion, or
yeah,
I forgot what they called it already.
yeah, I forget what they're called already. But in terms of population density, you'd expect places like California and and New York and Florida to be just completely gone because cities.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would make sense that like those sides would be completely just gone.
Yeah.
I don't know though. Like it all
But in
depends too. Like it depends on the situation. Like that alternative time, like for all we know, maybe the density changed. Maybe like the bigger city didn't exist on one side, or it went to a different direction. I don't know. But then again, at the same time, think about it this way: one person dying in New York, let's just say, or in San Francisco, because it only kills everybody in that one spot, then no one would further die and explode necessarily. Only on
but
the
it would create
outskirts.
more. But it would create more ghosts.
It would create ghosts in the spot, but doesn't necessarily mean that the people die of natural causes again in the same spot, or maybe some might die of natural causes on the rim.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Uh, honestly, that was one of the most
Don't know.
exciting. So I will completely deviating from the whole Ghost of Tsushima right now. But just one thing about Ghost Stranding, that was one of my favorite things that happened in that game. Actually dying, because it happens. It doesn't happen very often at
Right.
all.
The weird ocean thing that you go through. I
Yeah,
only
yeah.
did that a
Well, not
couple
just.
times.
I remember there was one fight in which against those giant boss fight things where I actually died. And upon coming back to that same site, you just find a giant freaking hole where
Oh
you were
yeah,
just
yeah,
traversing.
yeah.
Oh,
Those are
that's
cool.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
they
actually
kind of
changed the environment that you're.
yeah they kind of fake it a little bit. There's only a few places where you can actually die, and where they make the environment actually disappear.
Mm.
Um, but just so that break your own game.
Right.
Imagine every place you went to was just a crater.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the
Uh,
entire you die so much that you just cause craters everywhere. That would be fucking hilarious.
yeah, yeah,
I bet you
uh,
that would even be a challenge where you just go around making craters.
yeah.
Like how much more craters can I make?
Something for the mod community.
Yeah.
Now that it's on PC.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so and I mean, I haven't gotten through the whole game. What would you rate it if you had to give it a one through 10 scale? The Apollo.
I mean, off the top of my head, I guess maybe an 8. Like I think it's a really good game. Like I said at the top of the show, it's really good, great at times. I think the story for me picked up a lot in Act Two and three, especially. But yeah, I mean, it's good. It's really good. It's not. It doesn't. I love Sucker Punch, and I think they're one of the best studios in the world. But I get that they needed to go to something else after Infamous, like they did 3 of those games, and they wanted to do something else. But
Yeah.
I almost wish they did another Infamous game because I really, obviously I prefer that series to this game. Not that you can necessarily compare them too much because they're very different, but I feel like even with Second Son, which is it's a really good game as well, but it is in my opinion the weakest Infamous game. That game, speaking of this game feeling like a 2014 game, that game actually came out in 2014, and in a lot of ways, that game it definitely feels better, but it also feels more modern in terms of its mechanics and some of the ways that it works than this game does. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah, an 8 out of 10 would probably be my score.
Interesting. can't wait to finish it and give it my final verdict too. What was I gonna say? So let's see. Sucker Punch has only done. What else have they done? They've done Infamous.
The
They've done
Sly
Ghost of
Cooper
Tsushima.
trilogy before that.
Yeah. You know, I don't know why I
love
was
those
kind of
games.
I don't know why I was mistaking them with this one. What is it? This one Xbox game that reminds me a lot of Infamous, where you slide around a lot on
Is
like
that
wheels.
Overdrive?
Yes, that one.
That's by Insomniac. They made Ratchet and Clank, and then they made Spider-Man.
Ah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
That's
they're also amazing. One of
oh,
the top studios for sure.
Mhm.
Noise.
I think the last thing that I will say about this game, Ghost of Tsushima, the last again, I've been sort of, I've been throwing it under the bus a bit, but I do like the game a lot. I wouldn't be going for the platinum if I didn't. And but the last gripe I will say about this game is, again, I said the same thing when we talked about Borderlands. You can't skip any of the cutscenes. Like, I don't know why that's still a fucking thing in games, and it most of it usually isn't these days.
Yeah.
So when a game pops up, especially this high profile of a game like this or like Borderlands 3, that mechanic pops up in the game. It's so glaring to me that it really does. It bothers me a lot, like, because you can't skip not just the main cutscenes, but even if you're just talking to a random NPC and like just talking to them, like to get, because the way the side missions work, like sometimes you'll just get them, like from the main story or from talking to a character, but sometimes you'll rescue a hostage or something, like in a random standoff in the world, and they'll talk to you and they'll give you a rumored location, or they'll give you a side mission that you can go then explore, and you can't even skip those cutscenes. Like, it takes you into a cutscene and you can't skip it, and I don't understand why it's still a thing, and it really annoyed me. But yeah.
But overall, you have a positive experience of it. Would you recommend it?
Yeah. I mean, I would recommend it. I think. I mean, this game has been getting a lot of great reviews, and I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts where people really, really adore it. And I totally understand why. Even if I don't agree with all their points, I totally get it.
Right.
So I would definitely recommend giving this a try, especially if you, not so much if you like stealth games, honestly, because the stealth, again, very sort of finicky and half baked. But like, if you like, a lot of people have compared the combat system to like the older Assassin's Creed games, like the ones before Origin. I don't really agree with that, but I again can understand it, because it's sort of clunky like those old Assassin's Creed combat systems, but it's not quite as like fluid as like the free flow system from Batman. So I can understand that comparison, but yeah, I mean, if you especially if you've always wanted an Assassin's Creed game in feudal Japan, like so many people have, this is the closest thing you're going to get to it. And the open world is pretty great. And again, it's really pretty, and the story might grab you or might not, but I definitely think it is a game worth trying. And if you're a fan of Sucker Punch, I would definitely say give it a whirl as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
Good to hear. Good to
Most of
hear.
that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to jump back into the game. In fact, you guys are keeping me away from it. God damn it.
Alrighty.
But
I guess if
alright.
is that it? Is anybody
That's
else?
the episode. Yeah, I know, because I don't think we have any more thoughts on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No
Yeah.
problemo. Alright.
Well, thank you everybody for listening.
And we'll see y'all next time.
And the Goobcast.
The Goob Squad. Woo! At Goob o'clock. All right.